We turn now to First Minister's questions. Question number 1, Jackson Carlow.
Scotland doesn't want to be in a separate currency. Does the First Minister agree?
First Minister.
Well, I think Scotland should have the ability to choose the arrangements on currency and on everything else that best suit our needs and interests. That's the very essence of independence, and it's why I and an increasing number of people in Scotland support Scotland becoming an independent country. But can I say to Jackson Carlow, I am always delighted to talk about independence, but there is a constitutional issue that is, I think, more immediately pressing right now. In just 22 days, 3 weeks tomorrow, Scotland is due to be taken out of the EU against our will. There is still no sign of an agreement on withdrawal issues, no guarantee of a transitional phase, and no clarity on our future relationship. So can I give Jackson Carlow another chance to say something that people might actually want to hear? Will he join with me today in demanding that the Prime Minister stops asking people to choose between catastrophe and disaster and instead takes a no-deal Brexit off the table now?
Jackson Carlow.
It's the First Minister's own deputy who has raised the issue of currency this week. Scotland doesn't want to be in a separate currency. I was quoting the First Minister herself just a few short years ago when she and her predecessor were telling us that it was Scotland's pound and nobody was going to take it. Who would have thought, 5 years on, that the only people who want to take away Scotland's pound would now be the SNP? This week we've learned from the SNP's deputy leader their new plan is to ditch the pound and set up a completely new and untried currency. So, First Minister, any homeowner who has a mortgage in pounds and overnight their salary is paid in a new untried currency, are mortgage payments going to go up or down?
First Minister.
Well, of course, until a democratically elected Scottish Parliament in an independent Scotland decided to change that, people would continue to use the pound, which of course is Scotland's currency, just as it is the currency of anywhere else in the UK. But Jackson Carlow confidently talks about what people in Scotland want. Well, you know, the way to determine what people in Scotland want, that's to allow them to choose in a referendum. And of course, the Tories are so scared that people would choose independence at the next time of asking that they want to block them having that choice. That is deeply anti-democratic. But I think people watching this exchange today, I'm afraid to say to Jackson Carlow, are thinking about what is due to happen 3 weeks tomorrow. So let me bring him back to the here and the now. 3 weeks tomorrow, this country is due to be taken out of the EU against our will. We still do not know whether there will be a transition phase, and we do not know anything about the future relationship with the EU. That uncertainty could be removed today if the Prime Minister rules out no-deal Brexit. So I'll give him another opportunity. Will he join with me today and call on the Prime Minister to end this uncertainty and to rule out a no-deal Brexit at any time? Yes or no?
Jackson Carlow.
The problem is this First Minister just doesn't listen. There is no majority support for a second independence referendum. And if the currency were changed, here's what would happen. The Fraser of Allender Institute made clear on ITV Border this week, people would still be tied into mortgages or car loans, but they'd be paying them off in an untried, unknown, as yet unnamed new currency. A clear risk of people paying more. That's the plan your deputy leader launched this week. Worse still, today we read in the papers that the First Minister's deputy is also plotting another referendum on independence, no matter whether it's legal or not. Another independence referendum is the last thing Scotland needs. So irrespective of the views of her errant deputy, Will the First Minister rule out this divisive plan?
First Minister.
The legal basis for the next independence referendum should be the same as the basis for the last independence referendum. And the only reason we are talking about this issue is the disgracefully anti-democratic stance of the Conservatives, who refuse to recognise a mandate won at not just one election but 2 elections and endorsed by this Parliament. But, Presiding Officer, we can always tell when the Tories are in trouble, because pantomime Jackson Carlaw makes a reappearance. The face gets red, the arms get waved about. The fact of the matter is, people in Scotland will have ample opportunity to talk about the many benefits of becoming an independent country. But we don't have too much longer to sort out the mess of Brexit. So I'm going to give him yet another opportunity. 22 days. 3 weeks tomorrow at midnight, Scotland is due to be taken out of the EU, and we still don't know what follows from that. That could be taking away that uncertainty if a no-deal Brexit is ruled out. So for once in his life, will Jackson Carlaw stand up to his bosses at Westminster, and will he join with me in calling, demanding that the Prime Minister rules out a no-deal Brexit and that she does it now with no further delay?
Jackson Carlaw.
The whole chamber knows that in 2 short years Ruth Davidson will be sitting where the First Minister sits today. And a Scottish Conservative First Minister will be answering questions for a long time to come. But for the moment, this First Minister remains in office. So in summary, the SNP is preparing to launch a new currency, according to their Deputy Leader, which would throw people's mortgages and Scotland's economy into chaos. Then, according to her Deputy Leader, with whom she's now disagreeing publicly, the SNP plan to launch an illegal referendum within a matter of weeks. Another week of the SNP showing that there is only one priority for this government, and that's satisfying Nicola Sturgeon's obsession with a second independence referendum. Enough is enough. First Minister,
Order.
Just rule it out and let Scotland move on.
First Minister.
Well, at the start of that latest chapter in the pantomime, Jackson Carlaw actually had the good grace to laugh at himself. He was being so utterly ridiculous. I was going to say Jackson Carlaw has lost the plot. I'm not sure he ever had the plot in the first place. But let me tell Jackson Carlaw what my obsession is right now. It's saving Scotland from the disaster of a Tory Brexit. Now, I don't know how Jackson Carlaw plans to spend the rest of his day. Let me tell him how I'll be spending the rest of my day. This afternoon, I will be chairing a meeting. Jackson Carlaw might want to listen to this. I will be chairing a meeting of the Scottish Government's Resilience Committee. And what we will be looking at is how just 3 weeks from now, 3 weeks tomorrow, we can secure medicine supply in Scotland, how we can secure food supply, make sure people in Scotland still have food on their table. We will be looking at how we can protect our economy from the risk of being plunged into recession. All of that time, all of that effort, all of that expense, because a Tory Prime Minister refuses to rule out a no-deal Brexit. It is shameful that the Scottish Conservatives have not demanded that she do so. You know, I've been wondering why the Scottish Tories are
First
quite
Minister,
as supine as they are. Perhaps it's because, Presiding Officer, they don't want to stand up for Scotland and never will stand up for Scotland.